Morning, guys. Hope everybody's well out there. Um, Going to take this on to the next stage now. So we're going into our third 20-minute segment. And as I said last time, we were just kind of tidying up this tree here a little bit, getting a little bit more kind of shape into the bank here. So what I'm going to work on today is probably putting some low-lying clouds in the background here. And I probably will. I'm going to put another tree in here just to balance it up a little bit. And then I can put in the reflections in the water here as well. So I'm going to crack on and I'll start coming in with a bit of cloud work. Now, always with clouds, I'm just going to use basically two colours for the moment. I'm going to use my sky colour, which is that cerulean blue, and white. And what I'm going to try and do is just get a good top line, a good shape of the cloud in, and then just soften it back in. So there isn't going to be a huge amount of detail in the start of it. So it's just coming in and getting a good shape in. And these are low-lying, it's a bank of clouds rather than individual clouds floating by. So it's a low-lying clouds, just getting a random sort of shape coming in here. They might kind of tail off into the background as well there, so they kind of reduce in size as they come back. But you can see there, I'm just getting in a low-lying, distant sort of cloud. And again, that's the wrong word. Concentrating on the top line, concentrating on my shape. So just working around here. And this is where I come back in with the cerulean blue. I want these kind of just to fade back into the sky, like in these hot summer days where you get this, the cloud is just kind of fading, melting into the sky, if you like. So I'm just using my background here color as well, just to get them to fade back in. Going a little heavy there. But get them to just kind of fade back in and disappear out. That's the idea for the moment. And then I look at getting some kind of shape into them. That green is still a bit wet, so I'm pulling some of that in. So I'm going to be careful in around there. Start getting a bit of depth into them now, a little bit of shape. This one here could be overlapping a little bit. So you get a volume, makes them get nice depth into them, get a good volume into the clouds. Okay, so I'm going to start blocking those in. There's a real punch of white. When this dries out and I come back into it, I'll come in and get a real punch of white into some of these areas. Now to look at getting some shadow in, as I said, my cerulean blue, I might come back in with a little bit of indigo. Tiny little bit of indigo just to punch out some of the shadows in those clouds. Again, it's very, very subtle. We don't want much of it at all, tiny little bit. Again, because we want to give the impression that these clouds are way off in the distance. So in around there, just drop it in where you're going to have it. And then soften that back in as well. So it creates, as I said, a bank of clouds rather than just one big mass of cloud. Getting a little bit of shape in there. So again, I've gone quite heavy, but because it's simple little colours on it, very simple to start toning back down. So again, coming back in with my white and soften these. And as I said, probably when this dries out, I'll be able to come in and give it a real bit of punch, real bit of kind of nice little real highlights on the white cloud as the sun kind of catches them. As I said, our sun in this case is coming in from the left, so it's putting in nice bright areas and causing the shadows as well. So again, you can see there that we've got a good shape. That's what I always say, a good shape is really important. You can play around within that shape, but getting that decent shape in, get it to fit into your painting, into your composition is really, really important. You want to be part, I know I keep saying this, but you want to be part of the painting and not not dominate the painting or not take over from the painting, but just be part of it. So again, happy enough with the shape in that. I'll come back and enhance that later on. Might even come in there with a little bit more blue behind it here. This is a bit of artistic license here now, and just soften that in and allows those clouds to jump out a little bit more. And the main thing is if I can get that sky to fit back in so we don't notice that we've done that. It's a little bit of as I said, a little bit of artistic license, but we can come around and play with that kind of later on. Now, the other thing I was looking to do this morning was balance it up a bit and put in another tree in here, maybe just growing off the bank. I was down in walking down by the river in Bushy Park yesterday and just watched these trees that literally grow out of the bank, and it kind of gave me an idea of putting it into this painting, and it will allow me then to reflect the tree in the water here, which would be quite nice. So again, I'm going to come in a little bit of sap green, and I just want to get a shape for the moment. Actually, I'm going to use a new color I bought here as well. This one is cobalt green. So I'm going to look at kind of, this is going to be growing off the bank as such. So I'm just going to block it in a shape here. Again, it's a fully grown summer tree. Bring it up into the clouds, but give a bit of height into it. Something like that now. I'm going to reduce my brush a bit, try and get a bit of a smaller one if I can, if I have one to hand here. Now, okay, so I'm just going to get a nice bit of shape in here. Again, my shadow is going to be on the right hand side of the tree, so it's going to be nice and dark in around these areas. A nice bit of shape in there. And again, you can see it's all about just getting a natural sort of shape in, and then playing around with that. All my heavier shadows to the bottom of it. Full summer growth. Growing out a little bit here as well. Won't have as much detail in this one now because it's across the river there, so a little bit less detail in it. But again, my highlights, again, just using a bit of lemon yellow in with those greens just to help me get the shape of it. Color will probably change as we move on through it, but just for the moment, locking that shape in, get a little bit of good form into the tree. And again, nice thing about trees are that, what I always say to people when they're painting trees is, trees have what they call filtered light. So the light kind of comes through, bounces through all the leaves. And so in that case, all you do is 80% of your highlights, in this case, it'll be on the left-hand side, but it might get 20% down here because it's passing through all the leaves and lightening some of those areas. And likewise, my shadows, 80% of my shadows will be, in this case, on the right-hand side of the tree. But when you have shadows kind of crossing in and the leaves causing shadows themselves as the sun filters through it, you get about 20% of your shadows up around that sort of area as well. So blocking in nice kind of heavy shadows on this side of the tree. I just want to lose the background so it doesn't look like some of that's piercing through. Get a little bit more sap. As I said, I'm still using sap as my base color, and everything reacts with that base color to help with the continuity. So blocking in my shadows, a little bit of shade, twisting the brush to get those little bits of definition of leaves on the outside. It's fairly pale up here because we're mixing in with the cloud, but that's okay. Tidy up that at a later stage. It's all about just getting that shape in for the moment. And again, as I said, nice bits of shadow along the bottom where all that heavy growth is. So getting a little bit of depth into a little bit of form and shape. And again, maybe later on we'll see how it progresses, but we might put some branches or a bit of a trunk kind of piercing through little gaps in the tree where you can see it. But for the moment, it's just literally getting all that color in. Sap green, cobalt green, little bit of a burnt umber in there just as well with help with the shadows. So that's kind of blocking. I'm trying to give the impression there as well that it's lifting. So we might have a little bit of, it's not going flat on the ground. I want a little bit of a height that is growing out this way a little bit. So I'm just going to reverse shape it using my background color here. And then plant it on the ground. Like it could be literally growing. Might have to move my path now, but never mind. Literally growing in around here and then lifting up. Okay, now what that's going to do as well, because I put it that now and it's kind of, it's going to directly reflect into the water. So I'm just going to reverse here, mirror what's going on with it. So roughly it's going to come down about here. You can see there. So I'm just, no detail in this now, just putting in the same colors I've used. Of course, a little bit lighter on this side. Much darker here, reflecting the base of the tree. And then the reflection will not necessarily, it'll dissipate out a little bit, or in my painting anyway, it's going to dissipate out a little bit. So I'm just blocking in my colors there. I'll come back in with my river color. Sorry, something fell there. So little bits of, and the only reason I'm putting these colors back in is because I want these three to react with these colors. So I want to get this nice kind of, as I said, gentle ripply effect. I'm not a fan of mirroring the tree in the water, but just kind of suggesting it. I'm just going to come back there now, making sure I'm okay here. I can bring this out a little bit more. Again, a little bit more yellows. And you can see there a little bit more dark. It's going to be darker around here as well. So again, plan would be is to start pulling that down a little bit, soften it in, and reflect it in. Now I'm sitting on a, so I can video this, I'm sitting at a kind of a slightly funny angle. It wouldn't be my favorite painting position, but unless I wear the camera or the phone in my head, I have to be at a little bit of an angle here. So it's quite difficult to get kind of the feeling I want into it. But you can see there now by getting the colors to mix with it. And then apply the paint horizontally, soften, or sorry, apply the paint vertically, soften horizontally. You get this nice ripply effect in the water. Okay, so I might have a little bit of the blue kind of, just some of it reflecting back in. So again, this kind of helps balance up the painting a little bit. Also have an idea, again, for those who know me and know my paintings, no doubt there's an animal going to come in here, and I had an idea of putting a horse in, maybe just kind of, you know, taking a drink from the river or something like that. But I need to come up with a reference on that. Obviously, I'm not going to go with my imagination on that. As I said, if you can get away with like using Google Images or Pinterest, and you'll be able to find out a good image that you can kind of incorporate into your painting, and that would be the plan on that. Again, I'm just trying to give the impression that this tree is raised here. Excuse me. So it's raised here, and that will allow me to come back in later on and give a nice kind of sense of shadow in there. So if I even start that now, if I even start saying, look, my shadow is going to come in here, so it's going to be quite big there. Again, I'm not going to replicate it, I'm just going to suggest it. The last couple of times I'll put this video up when I come to the end of the painting is when I come in to really start hone in on some of the detail, tie it all together, make sure all the elements that I've put in work together. That would be the plan for that. But at the moment, it's still positioning, it's still blocking in, it's getting something to fit in, see does it work, and then progress that later on as we move through it. So you can see there now that tree kind of coming in. Looking back up here, tap in some of my heavier shadows. Again, when everything's nice and dry, come in with some sky holes, put a few of those in. That will help kind of give a bit more a real sense to the painting as well. Once you have those sky holes in, breaks up that tree a bit. And again, when I'm doing those, I'll give you the do's and don'ts of doing sky holes. Very, very effective way of painting trees. Means I can go in like this, be fairly loose with it as I go in, but knowing that I can come back in and put in my sky holes when I'm ready to do so. But at the moment, it's just getting that depth and getting that light hitting off the tree. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. Again, I don't want to keep you too bored, but it's just showing that when you go in loose, and I wouldn't even say confidently, but knowing that, I mean, if anything changes in this, I wouldn't get rid of that tree tomorrow, I can get rid of it. Like, so go for it, put it in. If you want to shape it tomorrow, you can see what we did with this tree in the first or the second session. We've totally changed the shape of it. So it's a good way to kind of go in. As I said, my motto, and again, I didn't come up with the motto, but the motto of the studio is, if you're willing to try something that may not work, you're closer to becoming an artist. And that basically means if you're too tentative or too careful in how you do things, it comes across. But if you're willing to take a chance, knowing that if that doesn't work out, you can come back in and play around with it, you will get results. It's all trial and error. And any artists who started out with these methods of painting, they're all trial and error at the start as well. So I think that balances up again a little bit more, gives a little bit more of interest. And then along here, initially what I was thinking of just doing is maybe you could have fields in there, but I like the open plan of it, so I might have a little bit of a tree line, just literally on that false horizon line there, bit of a tree line back there, And again, I might change the color a little bit, put in a little bit of blue just to give it that sense of distance. But again, it's just all those little shrubs and trees that are lying up there and they can disappear out. Again, you don't want a real harsh line because it's way off in the distance. So if I just soften it in with the finger there, you get that kind of blurry sort of effect. Again, I can come in again and just give those a little bit of shape. And just get a sense of that. Now again, it's just positioning that, see will it work. If I like it, I'll progress it. But again, it just finishes off that area. You might even have, I don't know, other bits of trees that's off in the distance there as well. So this one could be a little bit closer to us. Again, coming in with my highlights, keep the consistency on your light source, the light coming in there from the left-hand side. Again, you can put a little tree in there like that. That tree could similarly be the same size as that one, but again, working with your proportions and your sense of perspective, it's obviously going to be a lot smaller. The other thing about this, I was saying earlier that I might be putting might put a horse in grazing or taking a drink from the river, whatever. The nice thing about a painting like this is there's nothing to say how big that tree is or how big this tree is. This tree could be 20 feet tall, it could be 15 feet tall. Same with this one. This one could be, again, 30 feet, 20 feet. We don't know. There's nothing concrete there to suggest what the actual scale it is in. And the advantage of that is when I put my horse in, as long as he's not massive, I don't need to worry too much about the scale of the horse, as long as he'll fit in. The reason I'm pointing here is I'd imagine that's where he's going to go. But I don't need to be too precise with it. He has to look well, he has to fit in, but I don't need to be working things out and working measurements out because there's nothing to tell us what actually height these trees are. And that's always a good thing about landscapes. So again, I'm going to come back in here. Might put a bit of yellow ochre in just to break up that greens a bit. And again, I could have another little bit of a tree line just off at the back there. And get this on this. I like the idea of a slope coming in here as well. So I'll emphasize that a little bit more. And it's coming down. And again, this part here could be a lot closer to us. I might even have that coming right down to the river. I'll show you now what I'm thinking of. Danger of doing these things is because I'm doing this, ad hoc. So some of my ideas might turn out to be a little bit, but you can play around with them. So what I'm thinking of there is moving my false rise line behind that then. So if I come in back here, put in a bit of a brighter color, it gives another line of depth. Now bear with me 1 second, I'll get this fitting in. So this here, excuse me, this line, for example, could be 500 meters away, where this could be, a couple of miles away. So we're trying to get, even in that short little area, you can get those illusions of distance and depth by putting those in. And again, the river, which you wouldn't see, but the river might just kind of meander. I'm going to get a blade brush here. That river just might meander, so you might have meander on like that. And then again, some very depth, a very slight little horizon line way back up there. Again, the angle and mass is not letting me put that in, but I think you can get the idea of what I'm trying to do there. So I'm going to wrap this section up now shortly, but you can see again, we're getting through it. I'll have to figure that part out a little bit later on, but I'm kind of, in my head it's working. I don't know if it's coming across on the screen as well as I imagine it to be. And then I have my other, can you see that back there? Yeah, my other little kind of, this line will kind of meet with this line, if that makes sense. And then it kind of drops back down and you have this plane going at the back of that. That's the idea. And again, I always say that to people, if I can understand it, or whenever you're doing a painting, if you can understand what it is you're trying to convey, you have a much better chance of conveying it. But if you're just blocking in lines and shapes and all that without knowing yourself what you're trying to achieve on the canvas, it won't come across as that. It'll come across as kind of muddy or a little bit unclear. Where now, to me, I can see my river meandering there. I see this kind of bank coming in here, and the bank is sloping down here, and then this is pushed way back there as well. Just do a little bit more in this tree again, putting my little shadows in there as well. Again, it'll develop that. a little bit more. This path now becomes, well, you know, you could probably walk under it. If I widen my base of my tree here a little bit, I can get and bring it kind of just growing off the bank, if you like. Then you can imagine that path might go in under it. So that's the kind of idea we're going there. So, guys, I'm going to leave it at that for a moment. So we've got a little bit more into it. So next stage is I will, over the next day or so, I'll come up with a reference. I'm thinking of a horse at the moment, some animal I can put in here. And then what the next stage of that then is tying it all together, tidying it all up, making sure all the elements fit, making sure there's nothing out of place. That will be the plan. So I'll go off and research that. But we are now, 60 minutes in. So this is a full hour into it. And this is after here now, it becomes a little bit more trickier. We're coming in with more detail, bringing everything alive, but getting a bit more vibrancy into it, maybe adjusting our colors a little bit. But compositionally, I think we're looking okay there at the moment. Just going to move this. Is it this way? Probably this way. There's that little tree I just put in there. You didn't see it too much on the video. All right, guys, listen, have a great day out there. As I said, I'll come up with a reference for an animal. Thinking of a horse at the moment to put in here, and we'll take this on again in the next day or so. All right, enjoy yourselves out there, guys. Take it easy.